Hey guys, NFL Week 4. This is the Believe in Eagles podcast. I'm your host, Leigh Mayock, and our special guest, as usual, welcome my dad, Mike Mayock. Woo!
Hi, honey.
Does it make you feel good when you're announced like that?
No.
You know what I was actually going to do? You know that thing they do, the PA announcer for like basketball games, like standing at 6'4" from West Philadelphia, you know?
Yeah.
I was going to do that, but I couldn't remember if you were 6'2" or 6'1" or 6'3".
Good. I'm happy we didn't have to go through that. That's good.
Okay, what are you?
6'2".
Okay, that's normal. Yeah. Okay, well, I mean, we've talked about it so much, it would be remiss of us not to just get right into your Boston College reunion weekend you had last weekend down the beach. Dad, take us through it step by step. How was it?
No, I'm not gonna. I mean, there were 11 guys, and then your Uncle Mark came down because he's a BC football guy too. So
Oh wow! So has he been down before for it?
a couple times, yeah.
Oh, I didn't know you let him in.
He's family and he's a BC football guy, so he is part of the brotherhood.
You
So
wore that last time, honestly.
we had a great time as always, and we called a weekend, but the boys start rolling in on Thursday afternoon, and we were at the Deauville by about 2:00 in the afternoon on Thursday.
Oh,
And
shout out the Deauville Inn. If you haven't been there, get there. I'm obsessed with that place. It's down the shore. People use boats to drive up, like boat up to it, like like a bar. It's bar restaurant in the Jersey Shore, and it's unreal. Do you have a favorite meal there?
the Mud Hen Pilsner is really good.
That's a beer.
And they used to have a double dipped wing where they had to cook the wings twice, and my guys were obsessed. And when the new owner came in about 2 years ago, he got it off the menu, and we were all pissed. But the food's really good. The view obviously is beautiful. But being a bunch of knuckleheads, we typically sit at the bar and just giggle and laugh and watch football games. So,
Well, you got to watch Boston College beat who? Was it Michigan?
Michigan State.
Michigan State. Yeah.
Yeah, it was really cool. It was Saturday night. We took a jitney to Avalon, had a couple beers in Avalon, jitney back, pick up pizza back to the place, and the BC Eagles kick off at 8:00, and we got 12 guys that all played football at BC watching that game together, and that was really cool. We had a blast, and Sunday morning they all take off.
Well, it was kind of nice last weekend, right?
Oh, it was supposed to be bad, and we were literally on the beach Friday. A bunch of the guys were on the beach Saturday. We have a great time.
Wait, did anyone go in the water? Remember the water racing you guys did one year?
Yeah, we're too old to race anymore. But
wait, can you tell the story?
No.
Why? We won't use names.
I don't know. Locke was in there because he was a lifeguard in Stone Harbor, and I forget. Were you in there?
No, you told me about it.
Well, I mean, it was years ago. This is 10 years in a row we've done this.
Oh, it feels like it wasn't that long ago. But you guys were absurd. You were drinking on a beach like all day, and then you decided to have like a what do they call them at school? Like a field day. A field day on the beach. You made your own like setup. You had to like run around the circle 5 times and then swim to this random imaginary point in the ocean and back and win.
Do you have the right group of guys?
Yes. You don't remember? Did you have too much beer?
What we did do one year was the guys wanted to play like softball on the beach, and it was a nasty kind of day, overcast, and we got in like the second inning and it started pouring, and everybody left the beach. So hundreds of people left the beach, and the 12 of us kept playing softball for another hour in the pouring rain because somebody had to win. Like,
that's what I remember from the swimming thing. It was absurd, but you guys were intent on having a winner.
Well, you scratch an athlete, you find a competitor, and it doesn't matter how old you are.
Is that a real saying?
Well, I mean, you elbowed me in the head when you were a high school basketball player and broke my nose, so you ought to remember.
Did I score on that point?
No, yes. I think I stole a ball.
No, you didn't. You were crying on the ground.
Yeah, I was crying.
And I scored, and I won. That was fun.
Okay.
Okay. So anyway, we haven't really had an opportunity to discuss last week's game. It's Friday today, but we'll do a little fallback Friday. What did you see in the Eagles win over Derek Carr and the Saints?
I thought the biggest thing was the defense. And you and I talked last week, like, what does the defense have to do to stop this really high-powered Saints attack from the first, the highest scoring attack in the league? And they held them to 12 points. And they shut down the run game. They averaged about 3 yards a carry. There was only one carry over 9 yards, and that was Alvin Kamara for 14. So the defensive front did a great job. They tackled better. They got people all around Derek Carr. They held them to the low 100s in passing. And we talked about no big chunk plays in the pass game. Rashid Shaheed runs like 4.3 and had a couple big plays in each game. They targeted him 5 times. He had 0 catches. So wow. I thought from the defensive side of the ball, everything they needed to do to win a game, they did. And I give Vic Fangio a lot of credit.
Yeah, I didn't think Derek Carr ever got comfortable the whole game.
I agree.
We were talking about. What did you see offensively for the Eagles?
Well, I get a little frustrated. Obviously, Saquon Barkley was the highlight, and along with Dallas Goedert. Mm-hmm. Once they're down 2 wide outs, Goddard stepped up, had 10 catches out of 11 targets for 170 yards. Barkley was amazing again. The offensive line was down 2 starters, right guard, right tackle out. And so they ran the ball really well. But if they're going to be a playoff team and a high playoff team, they've got to take care of the football. Jalen Hurts threw an interception in the red zone. And by the way, that's partly on Devontae Smith. The route he ran, he didn't flatten it enough. And then he fumbled one in the open field. 2 turnovers, both preventable. One in the red zone, one on the plus 40. You're leaving points on the field. And Jalen's got to do a better job taking care of the football and maximizing their scoring potential. And that kind of brings us to the coaching, right?
Right, like in terms of also leaving points on the field? Is that part of the coaching situation that you're talking about?
Well, I give Nick credit on one hand because he's incredibly aggressive. And he's consistent with being aggressive. But sometimes I think the situation has to dictate. And 2 weeks ago against Atlanta, we talked about the only way they could lose that game is if they threw an incompletion. Mm-hmm. And even though Saquon Barkley dropped it, it's still on the coaches for making the call, right? Now this week, they go for it on 4th down 3 times. They go 1 for 3. I mean, this is a low-scoring game, this New Orleans game, right? Yeah. It's 15. Nobody can score. It's not like they're scoring buckets of touchdowns, and you better be aggressive and score a lot of touchdowns. Every time you get a chance to put points on the board, you got to do it in that kind of game. So, they're 4th and 3. They go for it and get stuffed. No points. There's 14 seconds left in the half. He goes for it. Even if he made it, they would have had to call a timeout, which was their last one, and have one shot at the end zone. So I understand what he's doing and why, right. But sometimes I think the situation has to trump that. Mm-hmm. And I felt in that game last week, man, you got to get points on the friggin' board.
Well, because you don't get unlimited possessions. So to me, that makes sense.
Well, and every game's different. Like I said, if it's 28-24 at half, and every possession, people are putting points on the board, then I get being aggressive and trying to score touchdowns. But in a low-scoring defensive game, every friggin' point you put up there is a big point. Mm-hmm. And I just thought that, Jalen's got to take care of the football. The coaches have to make sure points get on the board. And Vic's defense has to continue to play like they did last week.
And you mentioned those things are necessary if they want to be a playoff team, right? And we had Thursday Night Football last night, divisional matchup with the Cowboys and the Giants. Did you catch that game, or was it a little too late for you?
Well, I watched the first half, and then I went back this morning before I started my other tape, my college tape, and I went through all the statistics of the game. And, They fed CeeDee Lamb, which you figured they would after last week with him being upset. Dak Prescott was efficient. Their defense played way better. I don't, you look at this division, I think at best the Giants are going to be an average team, and I don't even think that's realistic this year. I think the Cowboys are an enigma right now. They've won an awful lot of games the last 3 or 4 years, 12 games every year, and then lost in the playoffs. Defensively, under a new coordinator, they've struggled up until last night. They got a lot of stuff to work out. Dallas does a lot, which leaves open the Washington Commanders conversation. And I think they're going to be better quicker than people think. And I like their general manager. I like their head coach. And that rookie quarterback, Jaden Daniels, you better watch out. That kid's special.
That's surprising. It's kind of crazy for me to hear that, like you and other people talking about the Commanders potentially being contenders. It's been a while.
Well, I'm not saying they're going to win the division this year. Mm-hmm. What I'm saying is they're going to be competitive.
Right.
And you better, you got to play them twice. Watch out, because Jaden Daniels can probably beat anybody in that league. I think they did a really good job drafting and some free agent stuff. And I think Washington is heading this way.
Okay, and what about the Giants? Is there no hope there? Because it's funny that I always am like, oh, I'm not swayed by the media, et cetera, et cetera. This offseason, when Daniel Jones got a beard and everyone's like, oh yeah, the Giants are going to be good. I was like, yeah, for sure, the Giants are going to be pretty good. Daniel Jones has a beard and he looks ready to go.
He has a beard?
Yeah, he got a beard. And everyone at training camp was like, oh, this is a new Daniel Jones. He's ready to go. And I totally believed it.
Because he had a beard?
Yeah. He just had a different vibe.
Wow.
Do you need a beard, Dad?
Apparently.
But do you think, is it Giants just not good? Is that what's happening? I don't.
No, look, it's a couple things. When you lose a guy like Barkley, and unfortunately for the Giants, that played out in the public because of the hard knock stuff. Mm-hmm. That's a hard pill, especially when he goes to Philly, a division rival, and plays the way he's played. That's hard.
Yeah.
The quarterback, Daniel Jones. I mean, he's solid as far as I think he can throw it short and intermediate, and he's a really good athlete. I think he struggles driving the ball down the field, and I'm not sure he's going to be their answer or not.
Yeah.
And as well as I do, if you don't have a high-level quarterback in this league, you're going to be looking for your next job pretty soon. So I don't 2 years ago, I did their playoff game at Minnesota in the wild card where they beat Minnesota. And Daniel Jones played really well, but it was mostly his legs, right? Oh. And Brian Daboll's a really good coach, I think. He was coach of the year 2 years ago. So I think at best right now, they're in a rebuilding mode. I love that rookie wideout, Neighbors. He is
Malik Neighbors, yeah.
Yeah, he's special. So I think they've got some good people evaluating talent in that building. But I think this is not their year. I doubt next year is their year. And I think Washington's on the up. And I think the two most talented teams in the league in the division are clearly Philly and Dallas. And both those teams are trying to figure themselves out.
Right. I had a question when you mentioned CeeDee Lamb. I know you like him as a player, but we didn't get to talk about, how he kind of complained about not getting enough targets. How do you feel about, and I think I know your stance just knowing you, but how do you feel about players like wideouts being that vocal and kind of complaining about their targets, about the situation with their quarterback, stuff like that?
Well, first, I love the way he handled it publicly this week.
Okay.
I watched that game last week, and I knew CeeDee Lamb pretty well coming out. Was at his pro day. We took him out to dinner, me, Bisaccia, and a couple of the coaches. Mm-hmm. Loved the kid. Loved his demeanor. It's hard for a 21 or 22-year-old to sit at a dinner table with 7 or 8 adults that have been around football forever. And I mean, He was not intimidated. He was all in. He was cocky, but not over the top. I could look across the table and envision this guy embracing the bright lights of any city. And his tape was awesome. I loved him. I really did. The other day, last Sunday afternoon against Baltimore, early in the game, I'm watching it and go, wow, look at his body language. I had never seen such like all high-level wideouts. Most of them are divas.
Flashy little divas.
They're divas by definition. And 100%. If they don't get the ball, they get frustrated. So none of that bothers me that much because I've been around 100 years and most of them get frustrated. But what I didn't like when you go to the sideline, you yell at each other. That's just part of sports. I get that. What I didn't like was his body language on the field.
Okay.
And he looked frustrated, more than anything, frustrated, pissed off, and not really wanting to. I mean, he had his head down. And right after I noticed it, he had a drop. Then he had a fumble. And so I think the mental attitude does affect the way a guy plays. And I give him a ton of credit because he came out publicly and apologized and said he needs to be better than that. And that's a young man that took a look at himself and said, yeah, that's on me. He didn't blame anybody else.
Mm-hmm.
I think, you know me, I hate the level of accountability of people in our country today. And I love when somebody takes accountability like he did.
Yeah, that's fair. And he did take accountability right away. And it is understandable to be frustrated when all you want to do is win. So I get that too. Back to the Eagles, the Tampa Bay game's coming up. Tampa Bay is coming off of a loss against a rookie quarterback, Bo Nix, and the Broncos. Kind of a surprising upset loss too. After they were 2-0 going into that, I believe.
Correct.
And did you catch any of that game, that Broncos game?
I did not.
Okay.
You would have thought the game was at home against a rookie quarterback.
Mm-hmm.
You would have thought they would have kind of eaten them up. Now I give Denver credit because they're well coached.
Yeah.
Sean Payton is really solid. He believes in Bo Nix, and he's bringing him along slowly. Bo Nix started like 60 college games or something crazy. So even though he's not lighting it up, he's kind of been steady and getting a little bit better each week. The run game surprised me. I think Tampa Bay gave up a bunch of yards, and I forget the number, but it was close to almost 6 or 7 yards a carry.
Okay.
But 3 of Tampa Bay's best players didn't play last week.
They had injuries, right?
Yeah, Winfield, the safety, Vita Vea, and Kalijah Cansey, 2 of their defensive tackles. When Vita Vea is in the game, it's different running the ball. Mm-hmm. So they didn't have him. All 3 of them are on the injury report this week. So it'll be interesting to see who plays against the Eagles, because the Eagles are going to have a little bit of a different offensive philosophy given all their injuries, especially wide out this week. So that's really going to be an interesting matchup this week.
Yeah, there are kind of a lot of parallels. I talked to a couple of the Tampa Bay guys today, and it was the keys of their game were dependent on the injury report, similarly to the Eagles. Yeah. So, okay, say the Eagles are without A.J. Brown and Devontae Smith this weekend. What do we do?
Well,
what do they do? Dad, I can't stop doing that. I'm so sick of saying that. I talk about the Eagles like this, and I keep saying we, and I can't get it out of my head. I did it too much when we were with the Raiders, and I just can't stop saying it.
Well, you do a podcast called Believe in Eagles. You're wearing the Eagles hat. I think it's probably okay to say we.
I don't want to. It's not. I think I should be saying they. I'll practice.
I had it beat into my head when I started in television years ago. It's never we.
That's what I thought the rule was, and then obviously the Raiders. I felt like I was a Raider, like I was on the field, and I felt completely entitled to say we, us, blah blah blah. And then I've just brought that into the Eagles, and I'm like, I am not playing on this team. I don't work for this team. I need to fix it. I apologize to everyone. I don't mean to do it. I will practice. But anyway, okay. So what do the Eagles do if they're without A.J. Brown and Devontae Smith?
So the Eagles only have 4 wideouts on their 53 roster, which is low. Usually teams carry 5 or 6. But what Howie has done, which is smart, since he has only 4 on the active, he's got 5 or 6 wideouts on his practice squad. Okay. And so if those 2 guys don't play, they only have 2 wide receivers, and it's Dotson and the rookie, 89. What's his name?
Wilson?
Yeah, Johnny Wilson.
Mm-hmm.
So if those 2, that's only 2 on the 53. So they're going to have to probably dress 3 off the practice squad, I'm guessing. Last week they had Paris Campbell up. John Ross, who's a former first-round pick, was on the street, and they signed him earlier this week to the practice squad. And they've got 3 other guys too. So I would imagine.
Are the other guys like rookies or? No?
Danny Gray, who's played a little bit, Kyle Phillips, who's played a little bit. So I would assume that Paris Campbell and John Ross both get brought up if Ross knows the offense.
Okay.
But it'll be interesting to see what moves Howie makes. But the bottom line, Leigh, is that regardless of those moves, this is going to be this game, to me, is going to tell us a lot about Sirianni and Kellen Moore and the offensive coaching staff, because they've got to make major adjustments to their normal game plan. And so the obvious thing to say is, well, let's run the ball. We don't have our wideouts. Let's put it all on Saquon. Well, it's not like Todd Bowles in Tampa doesn't know that. Mm-hmm. They're going to load up and do everything they can to stop the run game, a.k.a. Saquon Barkley, right? So that, to me, is the key to the whole thing, is how do the Eagles adjust to that? And for me, I think their play-action game has to be prominent. Like, Tampa Bay is going to load up on Saquon. On first down, let's make it look like run, and let's heavy play action and get Dallas Goedert and maybe Jahan Dotson involved early, throwing them the ball, because Tampa Bay is going to expect the run. I think Jalen Hurts has got to take it on himself this week to run more than I'd like to see him run. Mm-hmm. But some of the planned quarterback run stuff, I think they're going to have to do. So I think they're going to have to play with their game plan a little bit. I think they're going to have to take advantage of Saquon when they can in the pass game as well as the run game. You're going to get a heavy dose of run game, but Tampa knows that. So, and you also have the Lane Johnson complication. He had a concussion.
Yeah, he's still on the injury report as well. Yeah. Yeah,
but I think he was trending towards playing, and if he can, that's great, because Fred Johnson, who played for him last week, kind of got he got pushed into the pocket badly on 2 or 3 rushes by New Orleans. But so I'm fascinated to see how Philadelphia adjusts offensively to the potential loss of 2 of the best wideouts in the league.
Okay, so going off of that, what you're saying about how, obviously Todd Bowles is going to know that they're going to run the ball with Saquon Barkley, because that's kind of the options on the plate for the Eagles. Isn't that kind of the same about Dallas Goedert? Because, he had something crazy, 10, 11 catches for a lot of yards last week when people were getting hurt. Won't they give him the same attention? Won't they double up on him as well?
Oh, they will try to, especially in obvious passing situations. But the thing is, when you go with certain personnel groups, like 2 or 3 tight ends, which the Eagles could do. Okay. So when you double team people, it's typically when you spread things out and it's 3rd and 7, and you want to take Devontae Smith out of the game, and you want to take A.J. Brown or Dallas Goedert, to your point, had 10 catches for 170 last week. It's harder to double team those kind of guys when you get in 2 or 3 tight end personnel groups, play action. I think they got to really work harder on the play action game this week, because you can't depend on your wideouts creating separation and winning. So this is going to be a huge game for that Jahan Dotson trade. They gave up a 3rd-round pick to get a former first-rounder. It's time for him to show whether or not he can step up. I think Dallas Goedert's got to play a big role here, especially in play action. Barkley's got to be the star of the game along with Hurts. So,
a couple weeks ago, it was so funny. I guess Dallas Goedert looked at his like over under in the gambling world for yards or whatever they do, and it was like he was 0.5 under. And so he tweeted out, he's like, I just saw the number line, and I'm so sorry, guys. I'll make that money for you next week. Is that funny? But then I thought about it, and I was like, if I were an athlete in these games and I looked at my the odds for myself, I think I would want to do the same thing. Wouldn't you?
Oh my God, Leigh.
What? What? How is that a weird thing to say?
No. In your generation, it's not. I look at those things like I do all of the socials. I heard that's a word now, socials.
Well, there's a lot of different versions of social media. There's Instagram, there's Twitter, well, X, whatever. There's TikTok. Do you know these these terms?
I
so
know
now you just call them socials.
I know that. I know what they mean.
I'm just making sure.
Thank you. I'm just saying that to me, all this betting stuff and just an extension of all that. And I have zero interest in it. I would imagine if you're a player and you see your line, you go, wow, that's not very good. But that's no different than when I look online or one of my buddies sends me something that says, I don't know how to evaluate talent. I suck. I just go, whatever, and I mean, I could care less.
Do your friends send you things that the trolls say online about you?
Oh, every once in a while. Not as much anymore. Like when some of the guys would get pissed off and send me something, and I'd be like, guys, just is what it is.
Remember when you first were starting when you were doing, it was Thursday Night Football, I think you were calling Thursday Night Football, and Twitter was just kind of really popping off. And I would just watch the game and make sure people were being nice about you in the comments. And if they weren't, I was going insane. And you were like, Leigh, enough. Shut it down.
Shut it down.
It was only because I love you.
Well, I mean, keep in mind that the troll is JoJo the dog-faced boy in his closet in wherever, who's got nothing else going on in his life. And
I know. Now I know. But this was like 10 years ago.
I know. Thank you, honey, for defending.
You're so welcome. For you. I was just defending your honor. But okay, so now let's talk about the Eagles' defense against Tampa Bay. Yeah. Baker Mayfield has been playing pretty well, I think. And they have pretty good options at running back. They have a rookie running back that's doing pretty well, Bucky Irving. Yep. And he in combination with Rachaad White. Yeah. Rachaad White. So what does the defense need to do?
Well, Tampa's O-line, when healthy, has 2 first-round picks, 2 second-round picks, and a free agent. They're pretty good. I've seen them up close and personal. They're a very good offensive line. They want to run the ball. And this Bucky Irving's a different dude now. He was on the injury report yesterday, but I saw him quoted as saying he's playing, which sounds like a rookie, but he'll probably play. He's different than Rachaad in that he's smaller, quicker, explosive. The two of them are really good backs. So you got to stop a really good O-line with a solid to above average running game. This Bucky Irving, you got to tackle him. He's quick, he's elusive, he's explosive, twitchy. Their wideouts are good. Mike Evans is going to the Hall of Fame. Mm-hmm. They got a Godwin kid from Penn State. You remember
Godwin, yeah.
They got a rookie, Jalen McMillan, who's a good player. So they're a pretty balanced offense. And Baker Mayfield, I think, is smart and tough and is battle tested. And I think you're going to get their best game coming off the turd they laid last week.
The turd they laid? That is disgusting. Okay. Wow, that threw me off. What were you? Are you like a Baker believer now? What were you like what was your scouting report on Baker Mayfield when he was coming out of college?
I thought he was smart, tough, had a chip on his shoulder. accurate.
That's true.
Well, accurate, good athlete, not a great athlete. I think it's really interesting because there's a bigger conversation, not to get deeply into it, but there have been so many fails in the NFL draft with first-round quarterbacks. It's not even a 50% hit rate, and you kind of go, why? Some of it might be the evaluation, some of it might be on the kid, but at the end of the day, I think what we're learning now is how important the fit and the support of the organization toward the kid that you draft has become. And you see what happened to Bryce Young in Carolina, and now Andy Dalton's coming in and saving the day. He beat the Raiders last weekend, because Andy Dalton, even though he was only a quote second round guy, he's been in the league forever and
battle tested, one might say.
He knows how to play.
Yeah.
Right. So all of a sudden, this team that can't get out of their own way wins a big game with a veteran quarterback. Sam Darnold in Minnesota. Wow. Geno Smith in Seattle. Wow. And what it reinforces to me is just all these guys have some talent or they wouldn't have been drafted where they were. Number one, once they finally get to the right part in their career where they're mature, they can handle it, and they get the support from the organization, it starts to come together. And Baker Mayfield is kind of the poster boy for that. And I'm happy for him.
You know what? It's interesting you say that because I'll write this as a note and we'll save it for another podcast topic because I do want to get into it with you. I really want to know your opinion. I was talking to an NBA guy about their G League system and their feeder systems. And then I was talking to my friend in the baseball world and they have that minor league system. And it seems like, especially now, Tom Brady talked about it, how there's not enough, the rookie quarterbacks don't have enough time to learn under the right tutelage because they're just thrown in. He talked about that recently. Then it's the Bryce Young thing. I just feel like there's not a good enough feeder system for the NFL.
Well, feeder system is college. And so you're getting the best of college. 15 years ago or whatever, they had the World League in Europe. There's been a couple of minor leagues. Now they're playing a couple more of the minor leagues, UFL and those kind of things, which are really good for, I think, developing especially kickers, quarterbacks, and offensive linemen. They all really need reps. So, that's a challenge to get quality reps at every position.
Yeah.
Even if you're on the practice squad of a team. It drove me crazy because you're trying to develop these young guys and all they're doing is kind of servicing the starters in practice. This week you're the Eagles D line, the next week you're the Bucs defensive line, and that's fine, but you got to find a way to be fair to the kids to help them develop. And there isn't much out there besides, and at least now we've got, whatever it's called now, the UFL or, and they're doing a good job. What's that?
XFL?
It's the combination of the two leagues that merged last year. And, I watched a little bit of that and I was impressed with it. And it gives these kids a chance to get quality reps and put those reps on tape so that NFL teams can see it.
Yeah, that's interesting. We can get into it more another time. I have so many questions about it. And I have so many thoughts. And remember, I worked for the AAF for a little bit and I thought that was the answer, but we'll see.
Okay.
If you're not watching, this is my coffee. And I have to say, I have succumbed to the real fall. Fall is here. This is pumpkin spice coffee.
What? Is that ice in there?
Yeah, it's iced coffee.
Yeah,
have you ever had pumpkin spice?
Well, yeah, I wouldn't drink an iced coffee, let alone a pumpkin iced coffee.
Okay. Anyway, everyone else, pumpkin spice season is here. Dad, are you watching the game anywhere? What are you going to do?
Which game?
This weekend, the Eagles.
I haven't made those plans yet.
Oh, sorry. You have options. You got some booked and busy. All right.
No, I got to watch a lot of the league. I like to lock in on the Eagles as much as I can, but I also watch a lot of the league.
Okay. So you're not going to go to a party?
You can't watch games at parties. You can.
You can.
You're talented. You can.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay, I've taken up enough of your time. Thank you for joining us. It'll be a good, fun, exciting game this weekend, and we'll talk about it next week. Thanks for being here.
Bye, honey.
Love you. Bye.